school district there in Pflugerville, had a bit of a scandal on its hands. Why did it have a scandal on its hands? Well, one of its students captured one of its teachers giving a very interesting take about race and racism and ethno-nationalism. What? So the clip that we're about to see, we're going to start midway. It's a white male teacher in front of a group of Black students, and he's very openly telling them that he thinks that white people are the superior race. Okay? So that's the setup. So let's take a look at this clip.
Deep down in my heart, I'm ethnocentric, which means I think my race is the superior one.
Oh,
Wait, no, let me finish.
So white is better than all.
No, let me finish.
Go ahead.
I think everybody thinks that. They're just not honest about
Hey,
it.
I'm not racist though. I like all types of colors.
Did I say I don't like people?
People only think
Wait,
that.
so you said you are what? You are
You
racist?
saying you're like
You're
I think
racist?
everybody's a racist at that level.
No, you said you are racist. correct?
I did. Yeah, I'm
Say
trying to
it.
be
Yes,
honest.
I'm racist.
No, I'm not saying it again. I've said it enough.
So you're
I
racist.
think I slightly told you to stop speaking.
Put your phone up.
I respected you.
I'm
I
putting the
actually
phone up.
respected you for a while, but like
I'm putting the
now,
phone up.
I don't even got no more respect for you.
Put it up.
Yeah, for real. I don't think I got respect for him no more, bro.
You know, you should have more respect. 'Cause
So we've talked about racism, haven't we? Haven't we, friends? We've talked about racism a little bit here. And it's so funny to me is that specifically racist white Americans, right? Because they think that they don't come out and say the N word with hard R on the end, or because they might see a Black person walking on the street and they don't cross the street, right? They do seem to think that these things that is what makes one racist. Their overt racism, them overtly calling Black people the N word, hard R, right? Or if they want to be cute about it, trying to use the GGA, and it's like that's you're not making it better. you should not be saying this word. Period. Point blank. Regardless, but if that is a very disturbing video, even though it comes across very benign and even somewhat polite in tone. Okay, so let me fill you in on some of the details there. So that happened at an area middle school. And the teacher there is no longer employed at the Pflugerville Integrated School District. Now, according to KVUE News in the Austin area, they did not say whether or not this teacher had actually been fired. It just says that this person is no longer employed. And in fact, the teacher was never named, at least not in reports that I saw. Perhaps you all may have seen different things. So it's not clear whether or not this teacher resigned or quit or was fired. Though my take is, had he been fired, I think that's something that the school district probably would have announced, right? But let this be a little bit of a window into the very casual racism that Black children experience on all levels. And let's be clear, these kids are middle school students, okay? So let's not delude ourselves into thinking that racism is something that is only reserved for Black adults. Okay, no, Black children experience racism. Truly, they can experience it in utero, but they absolutely experience it throughout childhood. And to me, for this teacher to very casually get up there and tell these children that he is an ethnocentrist and that he believes that the white race is superior, and that does not make him racist. Let's be clear. There's also a fundamental misunderstanding about what racism is and what racism isn't. And one of the things he did say was actually accurate, but then he went way inaccurate. So he said that most people believe that their group is the best, right? And I don't dispute that at all. And Colin so very accurately characterized it as tribalism in our conversation before we went live. And yeah, everybody roots for their team, right? I mean, shit. That's how Black people got fooled by fucking Obama. We was rooting for the Black team. God damn. And lesson learned, we do not root for everybody Black. Let's be clear. So there's that. But while most groups and most people within most groups hold some sort of prejudices, potentially, and they can be small. I'm sorry, I don't mean to pick on the white folks, but I mean, that's just the first thing that popped into my head. Like the stereotype that white folks smell like wet dogs. Like, I mean, that's mean, right? And it's not based on anything, but it's a prejudice. Yes. Now the difference is, if Black people could exclude white people from spaces, that they have dominance in because, quote unquote, they allegedly smell like dogs, that's racism. Okay. When you are able to activate power behind your prejudice, that's racism. Okay. Most non-white people do not have the ability to be racist. They have the ability to be prejudiced. They can be discriminatory, but white, male, straight, Christian are the dominant groups, even if not dominant in numbers anymore in this country. They are dominant in political power, okay? And everybody associated with those groups, white women, white children, they also assume that same sort of power. So when this man gets up there and says, I think everybody is racist, he could be slightly correct that everybody perhaps has prejudices against other groups, spoken or unspoken. But really, the only ones with the power to activate racism are white people. There is no such thing as reverse racism. There isn't. Let's be very clear about that, because other groups lack the power to actually disenfranchise white folks, right? This is why a lot of the stuff surrounding Trump, surrounding the fascist, it's just a bunch of white grievance, because they feel as though any concession of the tiniest bit of power in the name of equality, or like these dickheads like to call it woke, any acquiescence to full inclusivity of all people and all groups diminishes white power, right? And that is where they're coming from. That is racist. And the ways in which this teacher, and I'm just thinking, like, when I watched that clip, what came to mind was the school to prison pipeline, right? Because that teacher could have very easily activated his racism against those students in a myriad of ways. And not to say that he hasn't done it in the past or with previous classes. I don't even know how long the person's been teaching. We don't know how long this person has been shaping the minds of youths holding these very racist views. And that teacher is also not alone. But how many times has he recommended non-white students for disciplinary action for reasons or for no good reason? How many times has he had the ability to influence police engagement with non-white folks, right? That is racist. That is power. That is power. And for these Black children to be subjected to that, to be exposed to that. And I want to actually credit the fucking teacher, the fucking racist, for being honest, because it's an honesty that we don't usually get. And I think that's another reason, circling back to Trump, if I could for a moment, why Trump resonated so much with so much of racist white America, because he was saying the quiet shit out loud. You know what I mean? He was saying the quiet shit out loud. White America hasn't heard that kind of rhetoric since George Wallace, since Strom Thurmond. They was excited. They said, oh, hey, wait a second. He talking like grandpa. That's the shit grandpa be on. Yeah, come on. Anyway, I want you all to just always consider, it doesn't even matter what group you're in. I just need y'all to know that there is not one single institution in this country that is absolved from racism. Education has not transcended racism. The healthcare system has not transcended racism. Our political system has not transcended racism. Our system of law enforcement and incarceration absolutely has not transcended racism. In fact, all of these institutions still work to very much reinforce this. Because, to be clear, the only reason that teacher is out of a job, and again, not clear on whether or not he was able to resign or whether or not he was fired, but the only reason that person is out of a job today is because there was a camera rolling, okay? That's it. That person likely has openly held those views, known, either in his community, potentially to other teachers in the building. Again, he didn't look like no spring chicken. I'm sure he's been teaching for a long time. And I'm sure this admission of racism was not the first time he did so. It was just the first time that it was exposed to enough people that it was enough to anger people to at least complain, to at least complain about it. But this is typical. This is regular. And it is a shame. It is a shame that kids in this country still have to experience this kind of shit, regardless of what setting they're in. You would think school would be a safe place for kids.